Hey, welcome. So let me ask you something. Have you ever set a huge, ambitious goal for yourself, only to find that just a few weeks later, you're right back where you started? Yeah, we've all been there. Today, we're going to dive into why the real secret to getting those big, life-changing results isn't about some massive, heroic effort. It's actually about the incredible power of thinking really, really small. Let's get into it. Okay, let's kick things off with a number that might feel a little too real. 92%. That's how many of us fail to stick with our New Year's resolutions. It's a huge number, right? But what it really shows is that the way we usually try to build new habits is just, well, it's broken. It's not that we lack willpower, it's that our strategy is all wrong. And this isn't just some abstract statistic. This quote from habits expert Will Moore really brings it home. He talks about his personal struggle with ADHD and how he used to see it as a major weakness. But then he had a breakthrough. The problem wasn't him, it was his approach. The solution wasn't some giant, overwhelming change, but something way smaller and a whole lot more powerful. So if setting these huge goals often just leads to burnout and failure, what's the alternative? Well, that brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today. The actual science behind why starting small is, hands down, the most effective way to create change that actually lasts. First things first, what in the world is a microhabit? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's an action that is so ridiculously small, it's almost laughable. We're talking about flossing just one tooth, or doing a single push-up. The whole point is to make it, as Wilmore puts it, too small to fail. It's so easy that it just sneaks right past your brain's normal resistance to doing something new. But how does doing something so tiny actually work? Simple. It literally changes your brain. You've probably heard the phrase, neurons that fire together, wire together. That's something called neuroplasticity. Every single time you perform that tiny little microhabit, you're strengthening the neural pathway for that behavior. You are physically rewiring your brain to make that new habit automatic. Okay, but how do these tiny actions lead to massive, life-altering results? Well, it's all about the magic of the compound effect. Think about it. Getting just 1% better each day doesn't sound like much. But when you do that consistently over a year, the results are explosive. You don't just get 365% better, you become over 37 times better. It's a perfect example of why consistency will always beat intensity. And all of this leads to what Will Moore calls the equation of life. This formula shows that our identity, who we are, isn't some fixed thing. It's actually the result of what we believe, plus our repeated actions compounded over time. Microhabits are the repeated actions part of that equation. They are the small, sustainable things you do that eventually change who you see yourself as. All right, so the science is pretty cool, right? But what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's jump into a few really powerful, practical examples that you could literally start doing today. Let's start with this one. It's a fantastic way to give yourself a confidence boost in less than a minute. So maybe before a big meeting or a tough conversation, you just find a private spot, like a bathroom stall, and you hold a power pose. Hands on your hips, chin up, standing tall. It might feel a little silly at first, but trust me, there is some serious science happening here. See, here's the crucial part. Your body can literally change your mind. Like the quote says, this isn't just about looking confident. It's about sending a direct message to your brain. This simple physical pose actually changes your body chemistry, boosting the hormone linked to confidence while lowering the one for stress. You're basically faking it till you make it, but on a biological level. Okay, now for the classic example that really just perfectly sums up the whole idea of microhabits. The habit is floss one tooth. I know, it sounds completely ridiculous. Your dentist would definitely not be impressed. But the goal here isn't to have perfect dental hygiene on day one. The goal is to just get started. And this is the secret right here. The real victory isn't the flossing itself. It's building a new identity. It's about becoming the kind of person who shows up, who follows through, even if it's in the smallest possible way. Because once you've built the ritual of just taking out the floss, doing the rest of your teeth is suddenly the easy part. Now, here's a really powerful one for your mental health that takes less than 60 seconds. At the end of your day, before you totally check out, just grab a notebook or a sticky note and write down just one thing you accomplished. It could be anything at all, big or small. Our brains are kind of wired to focus on what went wrong or what's still on our to-do list. This tiny little habit completely interrupts that negative pattern. It starts to rewire your brain to actually notice your own progress. You begin to train yourself to see your wins, and that builds the momentum you need to keep going. So you've got the science, you've seen some examples, and maybe you're thinking, okay, I'm in. But how do you make sure these new habits actually stick around for the long haul? Let's walk through a super simple 3-part toolkit to make your micro habits last for good. All right, it really just comes down to 3 simple rules. First, make it obvious and attractive. So if you want to start running, put your running shoes right by the door. That's obvious. To make it attractive, maybe you only let yourself listen to your favorite podcast when you're on that run. Second, make it easy. This is the heart and soul of micro habits, right? You just scale the action down to 2 minutes or less. So instead of read a book, your goal is read 1 page. The barrier is so low, you can't talk yourself out of it. And third, make it fun and rewarding. Our brains love to repeat things that feel good. So right after you do your tiny habit, give yourself an immediate reward. It could be as simple as putting a big check mark on a calendar. That creates a positive feedback loop that makes you want to do it again tomorrow. You know, we've covered a lot here, from brain science to practical toolkits, but the real power of this whole idea is in its simplicity. It's not about trying to change your entire life overnight. It's just about finding and pushing over that very first domino. And that really is the most important thing to remember. The goal isn't intensity, it's consistency. Real transformation doesn't come from one big heroic effort. It comes from one tiny, almost invisible action that you repeat day after day until it just becomes a part of who you are. So I'll leave you with this question. Just for a moment, forget about the massive life overhaul. Looking at your goals right now, what is the one laughably small action you could take today that would get you just 1% closer to the person you want to become? What's your first domino going to be?